Hey guys, welcome to Technibility, your source for no-nonsense tech. Got an awesome comparison here for you guys today. Got the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus versus the LG G6. Both of their respective manufacturers' flagship high-end phones. My name is Berj. Thank you guys for watching. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first thing I want to mention right off the bat. So my reviews tend to be just one long, hands-on with the phones. So I want to make this clear for anybody who isn't familiar with my reviews, and this goes back to when I first started back in 2012, 2013. I don't really use fancy text, fancy editing, or anything of that regard. I usually just do a review. Really, I have no notes other than just the specs. I'm familiar with the software. I'm familiar with the hardware. I've done this long enough, guys. I repair phones for a living, so I'm familiar with the devices, hardware and software-wise, and I essentially go through the features to show you guys what the phones are like when you use them in real life. Features that people want to see, the most common features such as the applications, the fluidity, the performance of the phone, keyboards, etc. I go through these features because those are the features that I think are important to me as someone who's had almost every high-end phone since smartphones first existed. And I would venture to think that a lot of people feel the same. Not everyone's going to feel the same, and I understand if you're not a fan of that type of review, and I'm not holding it against you. You guys can like whatever it is you so please, but I just want you to know my reviews do kind of just kind of go on, and that's how I like to do it. So for anybody who's looking for a short review or something that has nice edits and text all over the place, that's not really what I'm about. I shoot the reviews, I show you guys both phones, we compare features, and we go from there. Alright, so with that out of the way, you got the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, and you have the LG G6. Now here's the black G6, in case you guys want to know what the black one looks like. Now I wanted to do the midnight black S8 Plus versus the silver G6 because I felt like it would be nice to see two different colors versus two black phones, even though I do think the LG G6 in black is absolutely stunning. You can see I have all black wallpaper, so I did want to show you guys the black G6 before I get started here with the silver G6 versus the black S8 Plus. Okay, now in terms of hardware, you can see both devices have very little bezel on the front, so both are essentially all screen, and that's both manufacturers have emphasized that that's something that they went with here for both devices, whereas in the past you did have a little bit more of a chin, and also the top where the ear speaker proximity sensor is, you had more bezel, also on the sides. However, of course, the S8 Plus, similar to the S7 Edge, S6 Edge, does have the curved edges, whereas the G6 does not. It's just a flat HD display. Speaking of displays, that's what we're going to look at right now. So the excuse me, the S8 Plus has a 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display. This thing is rendering, I believe, 529 pixels per inch. That's a lot of pixels per inch. It's 1440 by 2960, and you could adjust the resolution in settings if you want. Corning Gorilla Glass 5 has 3D touch on the home button. If you're familiar with Apple's 3D touch, it's similar to what Apple has done with the iPhone. In terms of size, it's 8.1 millimeters in thickness, so it's a little bit thicker than the S7 Edge, but of course it's not the thickest phone. The back has Corning Gorilla Glass 5 as well. We'll go through the specs in a minute. I just wanted to show you guys the screens, or talk about the screens, and it is 84% screen to body ratio, which is quite phenomenal if you think about it. Alright, here we have the LG G6, which is a 5.7-inch 2K resolution display. That would be 1440 by 2880. It's 564 pixels per inch, so more pixels, but it's not anything you're going to notice in real life. And of course, the aspect ratios on both differ, so you can adjust the aspect ratio based on specific apps that you're in. It's 7.9 millimeters, so a little bit thinner, but you wouldn't know that looking at it. The edge, it kind of looks a little bit thinner, but it's not. So 7.9 millimeters in thickness, and it's 78.6% screen to body ratio, and this is Corning Gorilla Glass 3, so a little bit of a difference there. You have the always on display, double tap to unlock, of course, and we'll get into the specs as well for the G6 in a moment. Let's go ahead and look at the back of the phones. All right, you can see the back, and just in terms of size, the G6 is slightly a bit smaller. The S8 Plus is a little bit longer. Sorry, I have my IMEI information on the phone. So you could see in terms of the back, you have the what feels like plastic on the G6, replaceable. Both are water resistant. so you're not going to have any issues with water or dust. Of course, don't go swimming with your phones, but if you do, it is water resistant. The S8 Plus is Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the back, so they're both replaceable, but you can't open it to replace a component. I mean, I do repair phones, so I can do that. I can replace batteries, but it's not something I would suggest you do if you're not familiar with how to do it. You can see the dual cameras on the back of the G6, as well as the single camera here on the Galaxy S8 Plus. Now, in terms of battery life, the S8 Plus has a 3500 milliamp battery, so slightly a bit smaller than the S7 Edge, and the G6 has a 3300 milliamp battery, so both really big batteries. Good battery life on both thus far. Haven't had any complaints. I do a lot with my phones. So far, so good with the battery life. Now, in terms of the cameras, the G6 has a 13 megapixel dual camera optical image stabilization, and the front, of course, is a 5 megapixel. The front does record in 2K. I believe it records in 2K, whereas the rear does record in 4K. I could be, excuse me, the front records in 1080p. I take that back. The rear on the Galaxy S8 Plus would be a 12 megapixel camera. Also optical image stabilization, LED flash, and the front is a 8 megapixel camera. Also has 4K video recording. Now, 4K video recording takes up a lot of storage, so if you guys are going to record in 4K, just let that be known. And this is 64 gigabytes internal storage. The LG G6 also has 32 and 64 gigabytes. Both have 4 gigs of RAM, so super fast. You're not going to have any problems running applications. Honestly, in terms of running applications and tasks, heavy tasks, you're not going to have issues with either of them. Now, of course, they do have micro SD card slots. The micro SD card slots do take up to 256 gigabytes, so that is a dedicated slot there for the micro SD. I believe once the 2 terabyte card slots come out, they might support those. I'm not completely certain about that, but they might once those are available. Isn't that wild? 2 terabyte micro SD cards. That's wild as far as I'm concerned. You could see the rear. You have the fingerprint scanner on the G6 right below the dual cameras. Amazing placement, in my opinion, where it should always be. Whereas on the S8 Plus, it's right next to the camera, which I think is really just odd placement because you're going to constantly be touching the camera and smudging it up. Not that hard to clean, obviously, but nonetheless, you're going to be smudging up the camera lens, so it's going to cause distortion for your photos. So you can see the back of both devices. Now, if I was to just go ahead and lift up both devices here, both also USB-C. You can see the speaker on the bottom with the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for the S8 Plus on the bottom. Just trying to get it to focus here. Okay. Just in terms of thickness and size, you can see this side right here. You have the power button on the S8 Plus. And then you have the Bixby button, the volume rockers on both. Up top on the G6, you have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack and the SIM card tray for the S8 Plus. SIM card tray and SD card tray is on the side for the G6, in case you're wondering. Okay, now in terms of grip, the S8 Plus is a slippery phone, so keep that in mind, but it is a stunning phone. I mean, just look at that, guys. That is a beautiful device. No doubt about it, very little bezel. You put a black wallpaper, it's going to look like there's no bezel on this thing. So it's a stunning device. I don't think that there's another phone currently out in the market today that looks like this. I mean, of course, there's phones that look like this, but in terms of what Samsung has developed with the S7 and S7 Edge, but not to this extent with little to no bezel. And LG has really created a competitor in that regard because, as you can see, there's very little bezel here on the G6 as well. And I do think that this color G6 is absolutely stunning. I mean, I don't think I've seen a phone with this color. I know Samsung had the silver Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge, or at least the S7 Edge, but I don't think it was this hue or tone. I think this is a stunning color, and of course, the black is also a nice color, but I just think this is a little bit more unique if you're into that type of stuff. Okay, now the G6 does come in Mystic White, Astro Black, and Ice Platinum. Okay, and the S8 Plus comes in the black, the orchid gray, and the Arctic silver. So there are different colors. And I believe coral blue and maple gold will be coming soon for the S8 Plus and the S8, of course. All right, I can just double tap to unlock here on the G6. You do have the 3D Touch home button on the bottom and all capacitive. Neither of them have physical home buttons. which you may or may not be a fan of. That really depends on you. That really depends on you, excuse me. All right, and looking at their software, you could see both of them are running Android Nougat 7.0. Both have their respective overlays. You got the LG overlay and Samsung quote-unquote experience, which I just call Samsung TouchWiz because that's what it is. And just in terms of their overall look, they do look very similar, don't they? Well, one thing that LG doesn't have is the app drawer. Now, of course, you can change that if you were to go to Settings and simply just go to Home Screen, select Home. You can put Easy Home, Home, and App Drawer if you want the app drawer back on the LG G6. Now, in terms of brightness, of course, the AMOLED display is slightly a bit brighter. Actually, not slightly a bit. It's a lot brighter than the G6, only because it is AMOLED, but you are going to get screen burn with the S8 Plus. So that's something to consider. Screen burn is when the image of an icon or text or the keyboard or whatever it could be on your screen burns in to white background. So that's something that tends to happen with almost every AMOLED display over time. It's really hard to deter it. You could try to lower your brightness. That might help, but it's something that's most likely going to happen over time with your AMOLED display. You're probably not going to get that on LCD. You do get screen bleed here and there on the corners with LCD, but nothing I've noticed here with the LG G6. Just an absolutely stunning screen on both devices. If I was to give an edge to one, I would say the Samsung, only because it's brighter, but the LG does have a super responsive, absolutely fluid display. The color saturation, the viewing angles are beautiful, so no complaints there. It's not like I'm saying one is that much better than the other. It's really not. But AMOLED displays are really something else in terms of their saturation and the way that they portray specific colors and blacks in particular. So in that regard, I would give the edge to the Samsung. Now, in terms of design of the software, in terms of just the way that they look and feel, I'm not really a fan of Samsung TouchWiz or LG's overlay. I'm a fan of stock Android. That's just me. But a lot of people do feel the opposite. A lot of people like these overlays. Gives them a ton of different customizations. For example, if I was to go to settings on both devices, you can see I can go to display. Oops, pushing the wrong buttons. And I got to get used to the fact that these are basically switched around. So if I go to display, I go to theme here, you have a multitude of different options. You can simply just pinch in here, wallpapers and themes. So you got a bunch of different themes. You could download icon packs, font packs, and you could download multitudes of different themes. Whatever fits your lifestyle, it's available. You could see there's an Easter bunny. So a ton of different themes and customizations. You can also adjust the icon grid if you want it to be 4x5 or 5x5. That's available. If I swipe down here on the Samsung, there's my app drawer. Again, something that I can change in the settings here with the LG, but not something that is available right out of the box. So when you get it out of the box, it's not going to have the app drawer. It's just not there. Now, going back to settings, both of them are pretty simple. If you're not used to Android as a operating system, then you're not going to be used to the settings menu. It might be a little bit confusing to you, so it might be something you have to get used to, but honestly, everything is pretty self-explanatory. And I personally like list view for the settings. It's just easier for me, in my opinion. And you have a ton of different features here: device management, lock screen. Of course, speaking of lock screen, you have face recognition here on the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. So face recognition, fingerprint scanner, as well as iris scanner. Here on the LG G6, you have knock code, pattern, pin, passwords, fingerprint swipe. So no face or eye recognition, but it does have a good, it has a lot of good security in terms of the knock code, which is something that I think is almost impossible for someone to figure out. And of course, the fingerprint on the back, which is perfect placement, again, as I stated earlier. So security-wise, both are good. The Samsung does have a few more features with the fingerprint, or with the face recognition and the iris scanner. So those two features are there. But again, it really is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, customization-wise, both have NFC, obviously, Wi-Fi, and all that good stuff. So that's there. So customization-wise, both are equal. You can equally customize both. I don't think, obviously, you can always download third-party launchers. Those are available. So if you do want to customize with third-party launchers, be my guest. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and look at performance and fluidity of both devices. So we're just going to close out of everything first. Multi-window, which we'll get into. Close all, clear all, okay. And let's just go ahead and open some apps, see how quickly they open them. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go through the specs of both devices so you get an idea of what the CPU and GPU is of both of these beasts. All right, so the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus is running on an Exynos 8895 octa-core processor, and the US model does have a Snapdragon 835. The US model also has an Adreno 540 GPU, which is a beast, and again, 4 gigabytes of internal RAM. And the LG G6 is operating also on an octa-core processor, and that would be a Snapdragon 821, and you're running on an Adreno 530 GPU. So both are absolute beasts in terms of speed, running on Android Nougat 7.0. No complaints in terms of fluidity, and we're going to go ahead and showcase that right now. So just going into the Play Store here, closing out dialer, you can see how fast both of them are, almost equal in terms of their speed. Settings, okay, let's go ahead and open the camera here on both. A little bit faster there on the LG in terms of opening the camera. If we were to do a Google search. Okay, just bringing down the notification bar, swiping through screens. So it's just management. I don't know, we'll just go ahead and open anything here. Doesn't really make a difference at this point. So essentials, clock. Okay, you can see the clock for both. All right, calendars. Okay, and then calculator. Okay, so both are pretty equal in terms of their speeds, aren't they? And then third-party apps are going to run perfectly fine. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, games, everything's going to run perfectly fine. So I don't even have to showcase that. I can tell you right off the bat, everything is going to run perfectly fine on both these devices. So don't worry, guys. They're both speed demons. Okay, so speaking of applications, let's go ahead and look at the multitasking for both. You could see how the multitasking works on both devices. It's very similar, using multi-window. So there it is. And you can technically do two things at once here on multi-window on both devices, which is cool. Okay, you could see them utilizing two different applications at once. And of course, you can resize the applications. I do think it's a little bit smoother on the LG, just feels better, feels a little bit smoother to my touch, whereas you could see on the Samsung, it's smooth, but it's just not as smooth, just a little nitpick, honestly, and you can just swipe down. Of course, you also have Q slide here, okay, or you should have Q slide from what I recall. Okay, you could pin applications, or can't find Q slide. App pin not to be cleared, so if you clear all, you'll still have the pinned app right there. Okay, multitasking here, you can see how it works, very simplistic, easy to use, easy to get used to. So I'm going to unpin that and I'm going to clear it. Swipe down my notification bar. Color inversion, comfort view, do not disturb, data saver. So both of these are both of these are customizable. You can customize the quick settings menu. You have the brightness toggle right here, brightness toggle right here. So I think what we're getting at here is the idea that they're very similar in terms of their software, which is something I mentioned earlier. All right, let's go ahead and look at the camera on both devices here. Okay, definitely the pictures look more saturated on the AMOLED display naturally, but one thing where the LG, in my opinion, is a little bit more superior is the wide angle with the dual lens. Just a more superior camera experience just off that alone. But of course the Samsung has an absolutely stunning camera. Both have super bright flashes, which we're going to go ahead and showcase here. Okay. You can see the flash on both. How both of them look. Picture quality is solid on both devices. Okay, there's the Nintendo Switch. And speaking of the Nintendo Switch, I do want to just show you guys something really quick that's just going to be completely off topic of these phones. But the size of the S8 screen, S8 Plus, is about the same size as the Nintendo Switch screen. So look at that. Just a little observation right there. Okay, so back to the phones. Camera-wise, both cameras have Pro mode. Both cameras have a multitude of different modes: 360, panorama, slow-mo, snap. Here, if I go to settings, or excuse me, not settings. If I go to the left, auto, pro, panorama, selective focus, slow motion. So camera-wise, Both are going to take very solid photos. And of course you have the front-facing camera on both devices, and the front-facing camera here you can see skin tone, lighting, and filter. Okay, and also it'll give you the ability when you take a picture or shoot a video to share it directly to YouTube or whatever social networks you have. Here you can see the multitude of different little faces and effects that you have. Okay. So, can I remove that? Is it even possible? Yeah, there we go, remove effect. Okay, so front-facing cameras are good, both devices. They also have the flash where the screen just gets really bright. Okay, going back to the rear cameras here. Just taking some quick snaps. In the regular mode. Okay. And of course you have the respective galleries, edit the photo, share the photo, do as you so please with your photo. Okay, so that's always been there with Android. You could share it to third-party apps directly through the gallery. That's always been available. You have Bixby Vision here. You have Memo here. Bixby Vision, it says turn on Bixby Vision to find products online, discover new placement nearby, and translate text. So that's an available feature that's new. Bixby, which is also available on the S8 Plus, is just if you push this button right here, it's almost like a personal assistant a la Google Assistant, which creates itineraries for you, customizes your social networks, your calendars, etc. So you can either push the button or just go on your home screen and you'll see Bixby. You got GIFs right there, galleries, and whatever else you want customized there. You can adjust it via the settings. Okay, looking at their respective galleries. Okay, albums, pictures, stories. So there you see both respective galleries. Pinch zoom, of course. And you could adjust these buttons down below as well, the navigation keys. Alright, you have the back button. Okay, 3D touch on the home button. There's Google Now. Google Assistant, excuse me. You could sign in, just Google Assistant. Now in terms of camera, this might shock you guys, but I'm going to give the edge to the LG. I feel like the dual lens on the LG G6 is just right off the bat makes the phone superior in terms of the camera. I feel like that's a feature that I can't live without now on my phone, is the dual lens, the wide shot. It's just such a fantastic feature, and I just don't like the placement of the fingerprint next to the camera lens. Now don't get me wrong, the S8 Plus has a great camera, but it's not that much better than the S7 Edge camera. It's really not that much different. It's very similar to the Note 7 camera, the discontinued Note 7, which I love the Note 7. Of course, they had to discontinue that phone, but I just feel like the camera's not that much better. However, I feel like LG has done something really cool by giving us the dual lenses and the wide shot, which was also available, of course, on the V20. So I have to give the edge to the LG in terms of the camera. Quality-wise, if you're posting pictures that you're taking off your phone to your social networks, you're honestly not going to notice that much of a difference in terms of quality. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the text messaging applications. All right, swipe available. The ability to attach a photo, take a photo, just go to gallery here. Here you can just click on images. Hey, what's going on? What are you doing today? Question mark. Do you want to go do something? Question mark. Let's go hang out! Exclamation mark. Yay. Hey, what's your name? You want to go do something? Question mark. Okay. Simple enough. Alright, so there's the keyboards. Look at the dialers. Okay, you got your respective dialers. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the calendar on both. Your respective calendars. So essentially, there's one feature which I think is unique on both phones is the 18:9 aspect ratio. So you get the 18:9 aspect ratio here with the G6. So if you're in certain applications and games, it'll do a full screen of that game or application. You can adjust the resolution here with the S8 Plus. So if I was to go to display, you could see screen resolution. You could adjust that if you so please. A ton of different customizations. I'm not going to go through every single one, but you have a ton of different customizations on both devices. Also in terms of audio and video, or just in terms of audio, not video per se. Let's go ahead and check that out here. Okay.
Hey guys, welcome to Technibility, your source for no-nonsense tech. I haven't done a video in a few months, but I am excited today because we got the newly released Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Now, in case you're wondering how I got this phone before its official release on, I believe, the 10th or 11th of March, well, if you pre-order from T-Mobile, you'll actually receive it UPS next day delivery. So if you pre-order it from T-Mobile, you will get it tomorrow, or hopefully tomorrow. And you also get a free Gear VR, which is a really awesome deal, plus 6 free games. So they still got that offer right now, guys. Go check it out. Now they're back ordered on the VR, so basically what they do is they send you a slip, a certificate that says redeem your VR by going online to this website and fill out a 7.9 millimeter or 7.7 millimeter frame, so it's a little bit thicker than last year's model. The reason why, however, the issue is that they're back ordered, so it's going to take them a few days. If let's say you get it tomorrow, the next day, you're not going to be able to register to get your VR until Friday. Now, with all that said, the Samsung Galaxy, good stuff. You got Android 6.0 on this thing. It's Marshmallow with Samsung's TouchWiz UI, and it has, of course, the Snapdragon 820 CPU. 7 Edge. Okay, again, thank you guys for watching Technibility, your source for no-nonsense.
Alright. So essentially, both phones are absolutely worth it. If you're upgrading, both phones are phenomenal choices. Of course, I always feel like support the underdog, which is support LG. Samsung's going to make money no matter what they do, but at the same time, I do feel like the S8 Plus is such a phenomenal and beautiful device that it's kind of hard to make that decision. If you're a fan of LG, then yeah, go with the G6. If you're a fan of the S8 Plus, go with the S8 Plus. Now, if I had to pick one, personally for me, I'm going to go with the LG G6. The camera is, in my opinion, the deciding factor. I feel like that dual lens wide shot camera is phenomenal. Again, something I cannot live without once you start using it. Again, there's the black one, just in case you guys wanted to see it side by side. So I do feel like that's a killer feature, but the S8 and S8 Plus are both phenomenal devices, fast, fluid. You're not going to get much lag with either of them, if any at all. I think in this day and age, you probably don't want any lag on your phone. So that's something that hopefully, if there is lag, they can fix with future updates. And again, just in terms of functionality, both are very similar. So not much difference there in terms of functionality and software, even though I went on for so long in this video. I did want to emphasize that both do have some great features. So whether you're an iPhone user or a Samsung or an LG user, either of these phones would be a good choice. So I would say don't be disappointed with whatever choice it is you make. All right, there you guys go. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things I didn't cover, but that's everything that I felt like was what I wanted to discuss here in this video review in comparison of the LG G6 versus Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. If you guys have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below, and stay tuned for more cool comparisons. My name is Berj with Technibility. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.